My son murmured on the phone, "Dad, he hit me again. He said you're a soldier 1,000 miles away and can't do a thing." I heard the man snatch the phone. "You heard the boy. My brothers own this town." I went right to my CO and told him everything. He glared at me and said, "Go take the full damn team with you. You're going on urgent leave." We dropped them in a living hell. "Dad, he hurt me again." My son's voice, a mere whisper down the phone line, ripped through me. I was a soldier 1,000 miles away, and in that instant, a man grabbed the receiver. "You can't do a thing," he sneered. "My brothers run this town." My entire world shifted. The Syrian desert air was thick with dust and the scent of diesel, but all I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears. I stood rigid in the operations tent at Forward Operating Base Cobra, scanning intel reports with Liam and Daniel, my squad mates. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of blood and sand, mirroring the turmoil inside me. Liam noticed the tension in my jaw. "You good, Thorn?" he asked. "Always," I replied, but my mind was screaming. My son, Noah, was 7. I hadn't seen him in person for 8 months. Video calls and promises of "Daddy will be home soon" were never enough. Now this. I'd spent 12 years in the Rangers, learning to read men not by their words, but by the weight of their silence, the steadiness of their hands when bullets cracked overhead. Born in rural Wyoming, my rancher father, Arthur, taught me a man's word was his bond, his fist a last resort. After his accident when I was 17, I ran our ranch alone, 16-hour days under a merciless sun. That summer, I learned I could endure anything. The Army had refined me like steel in a forge, transforming a cocky kid into a team leader, earning my Ranger tab through blood, sweat, and singular obsession. My commanders called me Ice, because nothing rattled me: firefights, IEDs, night raids. I moved through them with the calm of a man who'd accepted the worst. Then I met Sarah Miller at a military ball in 2019. Her dark eyes saw right through my armor. For the first time in years, I felt something beyond the mission. We married 4 months later, and Noah arrived 10 months after that. I tried to balance it all: deployments, family, the impossible demands of both worlds. But Sarah grew tired of being a military wife, tired of the empty side of the bed. The divorce papers arrived while I was in Afghanistan. It was civil, joint custody, though my custody was theoretical given my deployment schedule. Noah's last video call had been strange. He seemed nervous, his eyes starting off screen. I dismissed it as kid stuff, but something had nagged at me. Now, this call on my personal satellite phone, the one reserved for emergencies. "Dad," Noah whispered, his voice tight with fear. "Mom's new man hurt me again." White noise filled my head, a roaring like an avalanche. My hand clenched the phone, knuckles bone white. "You're a soldier 1,000 miles away," the man's voice, thick with arrogance, cut in. "You can't do a thing. My brothers run this town. You come home, soldier boy, and you'll find out what happens to heroes who stick their nose where it don't belong." The line went dead. I don't remember crossing the compound to Captain David Reyes's tent. One moment, I was staring at my silent phone. The next, I stood before my commanding officer. My voice was steady despite the fury burning through my veins. "Sir, I need emergency leave. My son is in immediate danger." Captain Reyes, a 20-year veteran, recognized the look in my eyes, the same look men got before they did something that couldn't be undone. "Explain," he said. I told him everything. He leaned back, grim. "You know what you're asking, Sergeant?" "Yes, sir." "And you know what you're going back to do?" "Yes, sir." He paused, then picked up his phone. "Give me transport command. I need a priority flight. And get me Master Sergeant Chris Morales." 20 minutes later, Chris, Liam, Daniel, Ethan, and Ben walked in. My fire team. The men I'd served with for 3 years straight, who'd carried me in Fallujah, held the line in Ramadi. "Gentlemen," Captain Reyes said, "Sergeant Thorne has a family emergency. I'm granting him emergency leave. And all of you too. You're going with him." Liam stepped forward. "Sir, we didn't request." "I know what you didn't request, Corporal. 2 weeks emergency leave. If anyone asks, you were visiting Sergeant Thorne's family for moral support." His voice hardened. "But understand this, you're still soldiers. You represent this unit, this army, this nation. Whatever you do, I expect you to conduct yourselves accordingly. The unspoken message was clear. Don't get caught. Don't embarrass us. Do what needs doing. Yes, sir, they replied in unison. 8 hours later, I sat in a cargo transport heading for Ramstein Air Base, then the States. My team surrounded me, weapons cleaned and stowed, but each man wore the same blank, focused look of operators preparing for a mission. What's the situation on the ground? Chris asked. He was 34, a career NCO with a wife and 2 daughters back in Texas. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the research I'd done during flight prep. My ex-wife, Sarah, has been seeing a guy named Rafael Garcia, small-time criminal in Ashland, Wisconsin. That's where she moved after the divorce. Population, 12,000. Garcia has 2 brothers, Miguel and Mateo. All 3 have records: assault, drug possession, extortion. Police? Daniel asked. I called Oregon State Police from the base, reported the abuse. They said they'd send someone for a welfare check. That was 6 hours ago. No call back. My jaw tightened. Then, our comms specialist pulled out a laptop. Let me see what I can dig up. For the next 2 hours, as the transport droned across the Atlantic, Ben worked his magic. What he found painted an ugly picture. The Garcias aren't small-time, Marcus, Ben said. They're part of a larger network. Their uncle, Victor Vargas, runs a drug distribution op across 3 counties. The brothers are his enforcers. And get this, Ashland's Police Chief Owen Davies has a brother-in-law who works for Vargas. The whole department's compromised. How compromised? I asked. 3 complaints against the Garcias in the last 2 years: assault, domestic violence, intimidation. All disappeared from the system. No follow-up, no charges. The ice in my chest spread, numbing everything except the mission. This wasn't just about getting Noah safe. This was about dismantling an entire network that thought it was untouchable. All right, I said quietly. Then we do this the hard way. We landed at Denver International at 0600 local time. I'd called ahead to my old Army buddy, Kevin Reed, who'd left the service years earlier and opened a security consulting firm in nearby Green Bay. Kevin met us with 2 SUVs, no questions asked. Good to see you, Ice, Kevin said, gripping my hand. Heard you needed some support. Always do, I replied. What do you know about Ashland? Small town, big problems. The Vargas operation is the worst-kept secret in the county. They move meth and heroin up from California, distributed through the I-90 corridor. Everyone knows, nobody does anything. We drove to Ashland in convoy, rolling into town just after sunrise. I directed them past the small downtown to Sarah's neighborhood. A modest area, working-class homes with chain-link fences and tired lawns. Sarah's house was a small blue Rambler at the end of a cul-de-sac. My throat tightened when I saw Noah's bike lying in the front yard, one wheel slowly spinning in the morning breeze. Eyes open, Chris murmured. Black Escalade 3 houses down, 2 men inside. I'd already seen them. Watchers. The Garcias weren't taking chances. Daniel, Liam, you're with me. Everyone else maintained position and surveillance. Ben, get eyes in the sky. Ben had brought a commercial drone, small enough to be invisible, but powerful enough to give us a complete picture. I approached the front door, my team flanking me. I knocked 3 times, firm but not aggressive. The door opened a crack and Sarah's face appeared. She looked older, with dark circles under her eyes and a fresh bruise on her cheekbone that makeup didn't quite hide. Marcus, her voice cracked. What are you? Where's Noah? She glanced over her shoulder, then stepped outside, pulling the door closed. You can't be here. Raphael. Where is Noah? He's at school. Marcus, please. You need to leave. You don't know what these people are capable of. Then tell me. Sarah's hands shook as she wrapped her arms around herself. I didn't know. Not at first. Raphael was charming, attentive. He had money. I thought he was a contractor or something. By the time I figured out what he really did, I was already in too deep. Tears spilled down her cheeks. He said if I left him, if I went to the police, his family would hurt Noah. Hurt me. I saw what they did to a woman who testified against Miguel. She disappeared. Marcus, they found her car in a ravine 2 months later, but they never found her. How long has he been hurting Noah? 3 months. It started with yelling, then pushing. Last week She couldn't finish. I felt Liam's hand on my shoulder, steadying me. When I spoke, my voice was calm, almost gentle. Sarah, I need you to trust me. Can you get Noah out of school early? Say it's a family emergency. Raphael will know. He has people watching. Let them watch. What time does Noah get out of school normally? 3 o'clock. Where's Raphael now? He left this morning. Said he had business. She looked at me with desperate hope. Can you really get us out of this? I'm going to do better than that, I said. I'm going to make sure they never hurt anyone again. After Sarah went back inside, my team and I returned to the SUVs. Ben had the drone footage pulled up. Got something interesting, he said. There's a warehouse on the industrial side of town. A lot of traffic coming and going. Our friends in the Escalade have been in radio contact with someone there. Vargas's operation? Liam asked. Most likely, but there's more. I pulled property records. The warehouse is owned by a shell company, but I traced it back. Guess who's listed as a silent partner? Don't tell me, Chris muttered. Police Chief Owen Davies. Not directly. It's buried under his wife's maiden name and 3 other LLCs. But it's there. I nodded slowly. So, we're dealing with a criminal enterprise with police protection. They think they're bulletproof. What's the play? Daniel asked. I looked at my team. These men who'd followed me into hell more times than I could count. We go to Noah's school. Secure him first, then we start taking apart their operation piece by piece. But we do it smart. We document everything, build a case that can't be ignored, and when they come for us, and they will, we make sure we're ready. And if they don't give us a choice? Chris asked quietly. My eyes were cold as winter in Wyoming. Then we handle it the way we handled Fallujah. Ashland Elementary was a sprawling brick building. I walked into the main office at 1,400 hours, alone and in civilian clothes, jeans, a flannel shirt, a baseball cap. I looked like any other parent. Can I help you? The secretary, a pleasant woman in her 50s, asked. I'm Marcus Thorne, Noah Miller's father. I'm here to pick him up early. Family emergency. Her fingers flew across her keyboard. I'll need an ID, and I need to verify you're on the approved pickup list. I handed over my driver's license. The secretary studied it, then her screen, and frowned. I'm sorry, Mr. Thorne, but you're not on the list. Only his mother and, she paused, uncomfortable, and Mr. Garcia are authorized. I'm his father. I have joint custody. I understand, sir, but we need to follow protocol. If you can have Noah's mother call us and add you to the list. I leaned forward slightly, my voice low but urgent. Ma'am, my son called me yesterday and told me he's being hurt. I flew halfway around the world to protect him. Now, you can call the police if you want. I'd actually appreciate that. But I'm not leaving without my son. The secretary's face went pale. She'd seen the bruises on Noah, had reported them herself to Child Protective Services 2 weeks ago. Nothing had happened. Let me get the principal, she said quietly. Principal Helen Olson, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, had been in education for 40 years. She listened to my story, saw the military ID that confirmed who I claimed to be, and made a decision. I'll release Noah to you, she said. But I'm also calling CPS and the Wisconsin State Police. This situation needs to be investigated properly. I'd expect nothing less, I said. Thank you. 20 minutes later, Noah walked out of his classroom, saw me, and broke into a run. I caught him, held him tight, felt his small body shaking. You came, Noah whispered. Always, buddy. Always. As we walked to the SUV where Liam waited, I examined my son. Noah had a fading bruise on his arm, another on his ribs, visible when his shirt rode up. Rage burned in my chest, but I kept my voice calm. You're safe now, I told Noah. Nobody's going to hurt you again. We drove to a motel on the outskirts of town, a place Ben had scouted earlier. The team had taken for adjoining rooms, turning them into a makeshift operations center. Kevin had brought additional supplies, surveillance equipment, secure comms gear, enough supplies to sustain us for 2 weeks. Noah sat on one of the beds, eating pizza while Chris showed him pictures of his own daughters. I stepped outside with Ben and Daniel. Police chief just got a call from the school, Ben said, monitoring the scanner. He's dispatching 2 officers to Sarah's house. Good, I said. Let them do their job. We stay clean. But I want eyes on that warehouse tonight. Full surveillance. Who comes? Who goes? What are they moving? That night, Liam and I conducted the reconnaissance personally. The warehouse sat at the end of a dead-end road, surrounded by a chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. Security cameras covered the approaches, but they were cheap commercial models, easily avoided. We moved through the darkness like shadows, using the skills drilled into us through years of night ops. From a high position 50 meters out, we watched through thermal optics. I count 6 individuals inside, Liam murmured. Heavy activity near the loading dock. Looks like they're packaging something. Drugs, I said. They're preparing a shipment. As we watched, 3 vehicles arrived, a Mercedes SUV, a Lexus sedan, and a beat-up pickup. Men emerged, including 2 I recognized from Ben's research, Miguel and Mateo Garcia. Then Rafael Garcia stepped out of the Mercedes. I'd studied the man's photo, but seeing him in person crystallized everything. Rafael was 6'2", heavily built, slicked back hair, expensive clothes. He moved with the swagger of a man who'd never been held accountable. This was the man who'd hurt my son. Easy, Liam whispered, sensing my tension. We observed for 2 more hours, documenting everything with high-resolution photos and video. The warehouse operation was sophisticated. Multiple distribution points, careful packaging, professional-grade security. Not amateur hour. As we prepared to extract, my phone buzzed. A text from Ben, incoming. 2 vehicles heading your direction. Move now. We melted into the darkness, reaching our vehicle just as headlights swept across the road behind us. Someone had spotted us or suspected surveillance. They're getting nervous, Liam said as we drove away. That's good. Nervous people make mistakes. I nodded, my mind already on the next phase. I'd gathered intelligence. Now it was time to start applying pressure. The next morning, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to the FBI field office in Milwaukee. I identified myself, provided military credentials, and reported a large-scale drug distribution operation with law enforcement corruption. The agent who took my call was professional, but skeptical until I mentioned photographic evidence and surveillance footage. I can have an agent meet you this afternoon, he said. Make it 2 agents, I replied. And bring someone from the DEA. The second call was to a lawyer Kevin recommended, Jessica Hayes, a former prosecutor who'd left the DA's office after butting heads with corrupt officials. She agreed to represent me in the custody matter and review my evidence. The third call was to Lisa Thompson, an investigative reporter with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel who'd written extensively about rural drug operations and police corruption. Mr. Thorne, she said when we met for coffee, I've been trying to crack the Vargas organization for 2 years. I have it, I said, sliding a flash drive across the table. Full surveillance from last night. Faces, vehicles, license plates, enough to start connecting dots. Lisa studied me. Why are you doing this? You could just take your son and leave. Because Noah isn't the only kid in this town, I said. And these people will keep hurting others until someone stops them. By afternoon, the pressure was mounting. The FBI agents, a veteran named Elena Soto and a younger agent named Isabella Chin, reviewed my evidence with increasing interest. The DEA agent, a hard-eyed woman named Maria Rodriguez, made 3 phone calls during the meeting, each more urgent than the last. This is solid, Elena said finally. But I need to be straight with you. Building a case against a protected organization takes time. We're talking months of investigation, wiretaps, surveillance. If they know we're looking at them, they'll destroy evidence and disappear. So, don't let them know, I said. I can keep the pressure on. Make them think it's just me. Just a father protecting his son. By the time they realize they're under federal investigation, it'll be too late. Maria leaned forward. You're talking about making yourself bait. I'm talking about doing what needs to be done. What I didn't tell them was that I'd already started. That morning, Ben had done something beautiful with his computer skills. He'd accessed the Garcia brothers' phones, not to wiretap them, which would be illegal, but to send them each a single photograph. The photograph showed Rafael Garcia at the warehouse, clearly visible, time-stamped, geotagged. Below it, a simple message, "Smile, you're being watched." The message came from an untraceable number through 7 different servers across 4 countries, but its effect was immediate. By noon, my team observed Rafael making frantic calls. By early afternoon, all 3 Garcia brothers convened at Murphy's Tavern, a known hangout for their crew. Ben's drone captured the meeting with Police Chief Owen Davies in the parking lot. "They're panicking," Daniel observed, watching the footage. "Look at the body language." "Good," I said. Panic makes people dangerous, but it also makes them sloppy. That evening, I took Noah to dinner at a family restaurant in downtown Ashland. It was a calculated move, public, visible, normal. I wanted the Garcia brothers to see that I wasn't hiding. We were halfway through our meal when Mateo Garcia walked in with 2 other men. He saw me immediately, his face darkening. For a long moment, our eyes locked. Then Mateo smiled, a cold, predatory expression, and walked over. "Marcus Thorne," he said, his voice falsely friendly. "The famous war hero. My brother told me you were in town." I stood slowly, positioning myself between Mateo and Noah. "And you must be one of the cowards who threatens children." Mateo's smile didn't waver, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. "Careful, soldier boy. You might be tough overseas, but you're in our world now." "Your world," I said quietly, "is about to get a lot smaller." The 2 men with Mateo shifted, hands moving toward their waistbands. I didn't move, didn't blink. I'd faced down armed insurgents in Fallujah. These thugs didn't scare me. "Is there a problem here?" The restaurant owner, an older man named Mike Walsh, emerged from the kitchen. He held a baseball bat and a phone. "Because I've already called the police, and I'm recording everything." Mateo glanced at the phone, then back at me. "No problem. Just saying hello to an old friend." He leaned closer, his voice dropping. "My uncle wants to meet you. Victor Vargas. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, Murphy's Tavern. Come alone." "I'll be there," I said. After Mateo left, Mike apologized profusely. I thanked him, paid for the meal, and took Noah back to the motel. "Dad," Noah asked as we drove, "are you going to be okay?" I looked at my son in the rearview mirror. "I promise you, buddy. This is all going to be over soon." That night, the team gathered for a tactical briefing. "They're inviting you into a trap," Chris said. "Murphy's is their territory. They'll have every advantage." "I know," I said. "Which is why we're going to flip the script." "Then, can you get eyes and ears inside Murphy's?" "Already working on it. The place has Wi-Fi, which means I can access their security cameras. I can also place some wireless microphones. Plant them during the lunch rush. Nobody will notice." "Good. Liam, Daniel, I want you outside with Overwatch positions. Ethan, you're my backup. You'll be inside, playing the drunk regular. Chris, you coordinate with our FBI friends. If this goes sideways, I want federal agents on standby." "And if Vargas wants to talk business?" Kevin asked. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then we'll talk. And I'll make sure every word is recorded and admissible in court." Murphy's Tavern smelled like stale beer and cigarette smoke that had soaked into the wood over decades. I walked in at precisely 2,000 hours, wearing jeans, a black t-shirt, and a leather jacket. I knew I was being scanned for weapons. Victor Vargas wouldn't risk a meeting without security, so I'd left my sidearm in the SUV. I didn't need it. This wasn't that kind of meeting. Victor Vargas sat in a booth at the back, surrounded by 4 men. He was in his 50s, lean and sharp-featured, with silver hair and cold eyes. He wore an expensive suit that looked out of place in the dive bar. "Sergeant Thorne," Vargas said, gesturing to the seat across from him. "Thank you for coming." I slid into the booth. Ethan Cruz sat 3 tables away, hunched over a beer, the perfect picture of a lonely drunk. I could feel, rather than see, Liam and Daniel in their positions outside, rifles ready. "Let's skip the pleasantries," I said. "You wanted to meet. Here I am." Vargas smiled. I appreciate that. I'll be direct too. You're causing problems for my organization. The school incident, the surveillance, the federal agents asking questions. This needs to stop. Your nephew hurt my son. That needs to stop. Raphael has a temper. He'll be dealt with. Not good enough. Vargas's smile faded. You don't seem to understand your situation, Sergeant. I run 3 counties. I have police, judges, lawyers on my payroll. You're one man with a grudge. How do you think this ends? I leaned forward. It ends with you in a federal prison. See, while you've been building your little empire, I've been building a case. The FBI has my evidence. The DEA is watching your warehouse. And in about, I checked my watch, 10 minutes, a story is going to drop in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel detailing your entire operation with photos. Vargas's face went still. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your phone. Vargas pulled out his phone, his fingers moving rapidly. His face went pale. Lisa Thompson's story had just gone live online, complete with photographs and a detailed breakdown of the Vargas organization structure. You made a mistake, I said quietly. You thought you were untouchable. You thought hurting a kid wouldn't matter because his father was too far away. But I'm not far away anymore. And I'm not stopping until every one of you is behind bars. Vargas's men tensed, hands moving toward weapons. I didn't move. You pull those guns, I said, and everyone you get caught on camera. Ben showed them. On every screen in the bar, the TV above the counter, the old-school arcade machine in the corner, even the jukebox display, the same image appeared, a live feed from the security cameras showing the booth, showing Vargas's men reaching for their weapons. Say cheese, I said. You're live on the internet. Ben had hacked every device in the bar and was streaming to multiple platforms. Thousands of people were watching. Vargas's jaw clenched. Turn it off. Not until we're done talking. Here's how this works. You and your organization are finished. The feds are coming. You can cooperate, cut a deal, maybe see daylight before you're 70, or you can fight. In which case, I'll make sure they add every charge they can think of. Your choice. And Raphael? Raphael is done hurting people. If he comes near my son again, if he comes near Sarah, if he even thinks about retaliating, I will end him. And I don't mean legally. Do you understand? Vargas stared at me for a long moment. You're threatening to kill him. I'm promising to protect my family, however necessary. For the first time, something like respect flickered in Vargas's eyes. You know, Sergeant, in another life, you'd have made a good soldier for my organization. In another life, I said, you'd have made an honest living. I stood to leave, then paused. Oh, and Vargas, tell Owen Davies his career is over. The FBI knows about his partnership. He'll be arrested tomorrow morning. I walked out of Murphy's Tavern knowing every eye in the place was on me. I just painted a target on my back, but I'd also made my position clear. The Vargas organization could surrender or fight, but either way, they were going down. The answer came at 0200 hours. I was in my motel room, Noah asleep in the other bed, when Ben's voice crackled through my radio. Multiple vehicles approaching your position. At least 8 men, all armed. I was moving before Ben finished speaking. I scooped Noah up, the boy waking with a start, and carried him to the adjoining room where Chris was on watch. Take him, I ordered. Get him to Kevin's safe house. Now. Dad. Noah's voice was small, frightened. It's okay, buddy. Uncle Chris is going to keep you safe. I'll see you soon. Chris didn't argue. He wrapped Noah in a blanket and disappeared through the back door, moving fast toward a vehicle we'd positioned for exactly this scenario. I turned to my remaining team. They're coming hard. Liam, Daniel, Ethan. We hold them here, but we do it clean. No kill shots unless absolutely necessary. These men need to stand trial. You sure about that? Daniel asked. Because they're not coming to talk. I'm sure. We're soldiers, not executioners. The attack came 3 minutes later. 2 vehicles pulled into the parking lot, disgorging armed men. They weren't subtle. They were here to send a message, but I'd spent the last 2 days preparing this location. Ben had rigged cameras, motion sensors, and remote access to the motel's electrical and security systems. We knew they were coming before they even exited their vehicles. Lights out, Ben said from his position in a third-floor room. Every light in the parking lot and surrounding motel rooms went dark, plunging the area into blackness. The attackers hesitated, suddenly blind. My team, equipped with night vision goggles, moved like ghosts. We'd done this 1,000 times in hostile territory, urban warfare, close quarters, neutralizing armed threats. I dropped the first attacker with brutal efficiency, sweeping his legs and driving an elbow into his temple. The man went down hard, unconscious before he hit the ground. Liam took out 2 more, moving with the fluid grace of a martial artist. Gunfire erupted, wild and panicked. The attackers were shooting blind, rounds punching into motel walls and vehicles. I moved through the chaos, disarming another attacker, using the man's own momentum to slam him into a parked car. FBI, drop your weapons. The voice came from the street. Elena Soto and 6 other federal agents poured into the parking lot, weapons drawn, flashlights cutting through the darkness. The remaining attackers, realizing they were surrounded and outgunned, threw down their weapons and dropped to their knees. It was over in 90 seconds. As the agents secured the attackers, Elena approached me. You knew they were coming. I suspected they might, I said. That's why I called you 6 hours ago. You used yourself as bait. I used myself as evidence. Every one of these men is guilty of attempted murder, assault with deadly weapons, conspiracy. You can trace them back to Vargas and Rafael Garcia, who led them here himself. I saw him in the second vehicle. Elena shook her head, but she was smiling slightly. You're either very brave or very crazy. I'm a father, I said simply. The next morning, the arrests began. The FBI, working with Wisconsin State Police and DEA, executed search warrants across 3 counties. Victor Vargas was taken into custody at his mansion. Police Chief Owen Davies was arrested at his home. Miguel and Mateo Garcia were picked up at the warehouse. And Rafael Garcia, facing charges that would put him away for 20 years, did something unexpected. He tried to run. Rafael Garcia made it 60 miles before his luck ran out. He'd fled in his Mercedes, heading for the Minnesota border, but I'd anticipated this possibility. Working with the FBI, we put out an alert. When his vehicle was spotted on Interstate 90, a tactical team was ready. The chase ended on a rural stretch of road. Rafael tried to make a stand, reaching for a gun, but the federal agents weren't playing games. They swarmed his vehicle, dragging him out, slamming him to the pavement. I watched it happen from the command vehicle, Elena Soto beside me. That's all of them, she said. The entire organization, from top to bottom. But I knew there was one more piece to handle. That afternoon, I drove back to Ashland with Chris and Liam. We went to Sarah's house, where she was packing, preparing to move. Marcus, she said when she saw me. She looked like a different person. The fear was gone from her eyes, replaced by cautious hope. I heard about the arrests. Is it really over? It's over. Rafael's in federal custody. He'll face charges for what he did to Noah, plus attempted murder, assault on federal agents, a dozen other counts. He's not getting out. Sarah collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I should have protected him better. I should have. You did what you could in an impossible situation, I said gently. That's over now. You and Noah are safe. What happens now with custody? I mean, I'd thought about this a lot. I'm going back to active duty. My deployment ends in 3 months, and then I'm putting in for a stateside assignment. I want to be part of Noah's life again. Really be part of it. But that means working together, being co-parents, not enemies. I'd like that, Sarah said softly. We spent the next hour working out arrangements. Sarah would move to Green Bay, closer to my eventual duty station at Fort Carson. Noah would have consistent time with both parents. We'd go to therapy, all 3 of us, to work through the trauma. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a fairy tale reconciliation, but it was real, and it was right. That evening, I took Noah to a park overlooking the Fox River. The boy had been quiet since his rescue, processing everything in the way kids do, through play, through routine, through small questions that revealed deeper fears. Dad, Noah asked as we sat on a bench watching the sun set over the water. Are the bad men really gone? They're gone, buddy. They're in jail, and they're going to stay there for a very long time because of you. And because a lot of good people work together. The FBI, the police officers who weren't corrupt, the journalists who told the truth, my team who came to help. Nobody does these things alone. But you started it. I did what any father would do. I protected my son. Noah leaned against me, small and warm. I knew you'd come. Even when Raphael said you couldn't, I knew. I wrapped my arm around my son, feeling something unlock in my chest. I will always come for you, Noah. No matter where I am, no matter what happens, that's a promise. 3 weeks later, I stood in federal court in Milwaukee, watching Victor Vargas, Owen Davies, and the Garcia brothers arraigned. The charges were extensive: drug trafficking, racketeering, corruption, assault, attempted murder. The judge denied bail for all of them. Rafael Garcia, facing an additional charge of child mistreatment, would go to trial in 3 months. But the evidence against him was overwhelming: testimony from Noah, from Sarah, from teachers who'd seen the incident. Combined with his other charges, he was looking at life without parole. After the arraignment, I met with Elena Soto and Maria Rodriguez outside the courthouse. We couldn't have done this without you, Elena said. Your evidence, your testimony, it was all crucial. I just want to make sure it sticks, I said, that they don't find some technicality to walk. They won't, Maria assured him. We got them cold, and the case has opened up 3 other investigations into rural drug operations. You've done more than save your son. You've helped clean up an entire region. That afternoon, I returned to the motel to pack. My team had already left, returning to base one by one. They'd face questions about their leave, but Captain Reyes had been true to his word. The official record showed they were supporting a fellow soldier's family emergency, nothing more. Kevin Reed helped me load the last of my gear. You did good, Ice, he said. Real good. Couldn't have done it without you. Any of you. That's what brothers do. You need anything anytime you call. My flight back to Afghanistan left that evening. As I sat in the departure lounge, I video called Noah. He was with Sarah, already settling into their new apartment in Green Bay. When will you be back, Dad? Noah asked. 3 months. Then I'm home for good. We'll get you signed up for baseball. Maybe go camping. Would you like that? Yeah. Noah's face lit up, the fear finally gone from his eyes. After he hung up, I leaned back in my chair, feeling the exhaustion finally catch up. I'd barely slept in 3 weeks, running on adrenaline and purpose, but it had been worth it. My son was safe. The men who'd harmed him were in prison. Justice, messy and imperfect as it was, had been served. My phone buzzed. A text from Chris. Safe travels, Ice. See you on the other side. Another from Liam. Drinks when you get back. You're buying. And one from Ben. Already counting down the days until we're stateside again. Noah's lucky to have you as a father. I smiled, pocketed my phone, and boarded my flight. 3 months later, I kept my promise. I separated from the Rangers and took a training position at Fort Carson. I bought a house 15 minutes from Sarah's apartment. Noah's room had a view of Mount Hood. We went camping in the Rockies. Noah joined Little League. On weekends, I coached his team. Slowly, carefully, we built a new normal. Sometimes Noah still had nightmares. Sometimes I did too, different nightmares from different wars, but we faced them together. One evening, as I tucked Noah into bed, the boy looked up at me with serious eyes. Dad, will you teach me to be brave like you? You already are brave, I said. You called me when you were scared. You told the truth when it mattered. That's the bravest thing anyone can do. But you came and saved me. And someday, when someone needs help, you'll be the one who comes. That's what we do. We protect the people who can't protect themselves. Noah thought about this, then nodded. Okay, I can do that. I kissed his forehead. I know you can, buddy. I know you can. As I left Noah's room, I paused in the doorway, looking back at my sleeping son. I thought about the journey that had brought us here, the desperate phone call, the flight home, the battle against corruption and violence. I thought about the team that had stood with me, the agents who believed me, the people who'd risked their own safety to do what was right. Justice wasn't always clean. It wasn't always easy. But it was always worth fighting for. I turned off the light and closed the door, carrying that truth with me into the night. What would you have done if your child was in danger so far away?